So, once CONCACAF was born in 1961, the first president to come out was Costa Rican Ramon Col Juame. His presidency was from 1961 to 1968. The biggest thing that happened under his presidency was that the first ordinary Congress of CONCACAF was held in Honduras. That's basically the biggest thing that I could find that happened under his presidency. The next CONCACAF president was Mexican Joaquin Soria Terrazas. He was president of CONCACAF from 1969 to 1990, and the biggest thing coming out of his presidency was being the chairman of the organizing committee for the 1970 World Cup. Um, yeah, it's really hard to find any information about these two first individuals. However, the ones that are coming up, you can find a lot of information about them, and not because it's a good thing. So after Joaquin, the third president was the Trinidadian and Tobagoan Jack Warner. He would become the third president of CONCACAF from 1990 to 2011. Unfortunately, Jack would be implicated with corruption allegation in 2011. He was suspended by the FIFA Ethics Committee on May 29, 2011, later on announcing Jack's resignation on June 30, 2011. In 2015, he was officially banned from all football related positions. So then, after Jack Warner, Barbadian Leslie, I'm going to call him Mr. Austin. Mr. Austin would become the next president on May 30, 2011, only to then be suspended by CONCACAF 5 days later because apparently he was overexerting his power by trying to fire Chuck Blazers, who was General Secretary of CONCACAF at the time. However, the majority of the executive committee said, yeah, you don't have that power, and Mr. Austin was like, oh, yes, I do. And this actually went on to a Bahamian court. And some saw that Mr. Austin's move was a retaliation against Blazer for ratting out on Jack Warner. And the swerve on this story is that Chuck Blazers himself was questioned by the FIFA Ethics Committee, and in 2013, he himself admitted to accepting bribes. So yeah, the next president after Mr. Austin was Honduran Alfredo Hawit. He briefly served from June 4, 2011 to May 22, 2012. His story doesn't end there, and I'll come back to him. So when Alfredo Hawit stepped down, Caymanian Jeffrey Webb took office on May 23, 2012, who was then removed on May 28, 2015, because of the 2015 FIFA corruption scandal. So yes, Jeffrey was caught up in it. So after being removed, Honduran Alfredo Hawit, remember him, took back office on May 28, 2015. Only to him also be removed from office on May 12, 2016, because he was also caught up in the FIFA scandal. So yes, 4 of the 7 presidents of CONCACAF were caught up in the corruption scandals. And that brings us to our most current CONCACAF president. His name is Victor Montagliani, and he's from Canada. He became president on May 12, 2016, so he's been on for almost 7 years. As of now, he's been doing I guess. But, you always got to keep both eyes open. So, anyways, after a downer of of that to CONCACAF, I'm going to be quickly just talking about the defunct tournaments. These are the ones that were used in CONCACAF for one reason or another, but are no longer serving any purposes, or they don't exist at all. The UNCAF Nations Cup, or later called the Copa Centroamericana, was a tournament holding only nations from Central America. It ran from 1991 to 2017. It mostly served as a qualifying process to the CONCACAF Gold Cup. The format usually stayed consistent, that being that it was a single table tournament, with the team ending on top of the table being crowned champion. Sometimes, however, they would split into 2 groups and host knockout rounds. So let's quickly recap this. So the inaugural 1991 edition was hosted by Costa Rica. It was also won by Costa Rica. The 1993 and 1995 editions were hosted by Honduras and El Salvador, respectively. Honduras won both. The 1997 and 1999 editions were hosted by Guatemala and Costa Rica, respectively, and both were won by Costa Rica. The 2001 edition was hosted by Honduras and it was won by Guatemala. The 2003, 2005, and 2007 were hosted by Panama, Guatemala, and El Salvador, respectively. All three were won by Costa Rica. The 2009 edition was hosted by Honduras and won by Panama. The 2011 edition was hosted by Panama and won by Honduras. So yeah, they did a little floppy thingy there. The 2013 and 2014 editions were hosted by Costa Rica and the U.S. The U.S. only hosted the event. They didn't compete in it. So apparently it was to celebrate the 25 years of CONCACAF. Anyways, Costa Rica ended up winning both those tournaments. The final edition in 2017, it was hosted by Panama and it was won by Honduras. The other defunct tournament I'm going to talk about is the CFU Championship, holding only Caribbean nations. It ran from 1978 to 1988. In 1978, it was held by Trinidad and Tobago and it was won by Suriname. Suriname then hosted the 1978 edition and it was won by Haiti. The 1981 edition was hosted by Puerto Rico and it was won by Trinidad and Tobago. The 1983 edition was hosted by French Guiana and it was won by Martinique. Barbados then hosted the 1985 edition and it was won by Martinique. The final championship was in 1988 and it was hosted by Martinique and it was won by Trinidad and Tobago. And the CFU Championship was then followed by the now defunct as well Caribbean Cup. That went from 1989 to 2017. This tournament would be mostly used as a qualification process for the brand new, at the time, CONCACAF Gold Cup. The format was the same. It had its own qualification with groups, and in the final tournament, there would be a knockout round. There were 19 editions, so buckle up a little bit. The inaugural edition was in 1989. It was hosted by Barbados, and it was won by Trinidad and Tobago. The 1990 edition was hosted by Trinidad and Tobago, but was abandoned before the final match would be able to take place because of an insurrection. The 1991 edition was hosted and won by Jamaica. The 1992 edition was hosted and won by Trinidad and Tobago. The 1993 edition was hosted by Jamaica and won by Martinique. The 1994 edition was hosted and won by Trinidad and Tobago. The 1995 edition was hosted by Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. It was won by Trinidad and Tobago. The 1996 edition was hosted and won by Trinidad and Tobago. The 1997 edition was hosted by St. Kitts and Nevis and Antigua and Barbuda. It was won by Trinidad and Tobago. The 1998 edition was hosted by Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago. It was won by Jamaica. The 1999 and 2001 edition was hosted and won by Trinidad and Tobago. The 2005 edition was hosted by Barbados and won by Jamaica. The 2007 edition was hosted by Trinidad and Tobago and it was won by Haiti. The 2008 edition was hosted and won by Jamaica. The 2010 edition was hosted by Martinique and it was won by Jamaica. The 2012 edition was hosted by Antigua and Barbuda and it was won by Cuba. The 2014 edition was hosted and won by Jamaica. And finally, the last edition, 2017, was hosted by Martinique and it was won by Curaçao. And that brings me to the end of basically CONCACAF. I am gonna do one more video. It's basically gonna be me giving official numbers about CONCACAF at the World Cup themselves. And wow, it's exciting to finally reach the last video. So yeah.